Hello everyone, this is Sean from Hammersim. Today I'm bringing to you another 2000 point battle report, my vampire counts versus my friends Dark Elves. The scenario is battle lines and here is the terrain setup. I won't go through it because there's quite a few pieces on the board. You're welcome to pause the video to have a look at it closely. And this is how the deployment looks after Vanguard moves have been completed. Starting from the left hand side, we have a War Hydra, 3 Reaper boat throwers, a unit of Blackguard of Nagarond, 25 strong, full command. Then we have 2 units of Dark Shards, 25 strong each, no command. Each one, however, does have a level 2 Sorceress. Sorceress number 1 is the General, running Lore of Dark Elves. The second Sorceress is running the Lore of Darkness. Then we have a unit of 10 Witch Elves. Hidden inside that unit, as I found out later, is a Canite Assassin. And to top it off, we have a Harpy unit right there on the flank. As for my army, I've got 2 units of Direwolves, 10 strong. I've fielded them as wide as possible just to line of sight against his war machines and his archers. I've also got a couple of Spirit Hosts. They're actually great little 45 point drops because they're really good at protecting my flanks against things without magical attacks. Then I have 3 units of 35 strong zombies, all with musicians and standard. Inside one of the units is my level 2 necromancer. Most of my points, however, are inside this cavalry unit. I have 13 strong Black Knights, full command. They're running the Banner of Barrels, so +1 to hit in close combat. I've got 3 characters, a White King BSB. I've given him the Obsidian Amulet, so he's giving the whole unit magic resistance 2. Next to him, I have a level 2 Vampire. He's running Night Shroud, Lucky Stone, Aura of Dark Majesty, as well as Beguile, and the Iron Curse icon. He's riding a Hellsteed, which has Fly. Next to him is my General. It's a Vampire Lord level 3. He's running the Sword of Strife, so he's got 7 attacks. He's got an Enchanted Shield, a Talisman of Protection for a 4+ ward save, Red Fury, and Quick Blood. He is also on a Hellsteed. Now I've put my characters in a particular arrangement inside this unit to give them maximum benefits from all the magic weapons and talismans that they have. For a better explanation of how this formation works, watch the first few minutes of my 2,500 point game versus Warriors of Chaos. It's the video just before this one. On to turn 1, my opponent wins the roll and he wastes no time charging his Harpies into my first Direwolf unit. He declares a charge with the Witch Elves as well, but just fails to make the charge. However, they do move forward a little bit, and the War Hydras move up as well. During the magic phase, both of his wizards are within range of the wizard tower there, so he rolls randomly and determines that one of them should have all of the spells from the lore. However, he doesn't roll very high on Winds of Magic, and I end up dispelling anything he tried to cast anyway. During the shooting phase, he pretty much only fires at zombies because my Black Knights are pretty much out of range or out of line of sight against these war machines, and even at the zombies, because they're at long range and he had to shoot through forests, he doesn't do a lot of damage. During the close combat phase, the only combat going on is the Harpies versus Direwolves. He manages to kill a couple of them and then popped a couple more from combat resolutions, so the Direwolves are on half strength. During Vampire Counts turn 1, I charge my Direwolf unit into his Witch Elves, and every other unit moves as far as they can go. Spirit Host number 1 comes along the flank of the Hexwraith Direwolf combat there, hoping to get a flank charge off next turn. The Black Knights are as close to the Direwolves as possible because I'm hoping that they can provide some line of sight cover against his war machines. During the magic phase, everything I tried to cast got dispelled or didn't go off. There's no shooting phase because I didn't take any screamers. And in the Harpy versus Direwolf combat, the Harpies only do maybe 1 or 2 wounds, and I end up with 1 or 2 Direwolves left over. In the next combat over, the Witch Elves manages to do 5 or 6 wounds and then popping the rest with combat resolution. So this is really not good because my Black Knight unit is now right out in the open against all of his shooting, and I'm worried I'm going to lose quite a few models next turn. During turn 2 Dark Elves, my opponent surprises me by charging my Black Knights with his Witch Elves. During his magic phase, he does a really good magic missile against my Spirit Host, which kills him completely. I thought that was a really good play on his part because I was trying to get the Spirit Host into combat with the War Hydra, which doesn't have magical attacks, so my Spirit Host would have been able to hold him up indefinitely there. During the shooting phase, he had to shoot at zombies again because my Black Knights are now in combat, so I kind of think that's a bit of a waste for the Reaper boat throwers. In hand-to-hand combat, the Harpies finish off the Direwolf unit and reforms to face my Spirit Host. Here's a close-up view of the combat involving the Witch Elves and my Black Knights. As I said, he hid a Canite assassin in that unit, and when he popped out, I declared a challenge with my champion from the unit. He did not have a champion inside the Witch Elf unit, so unless he accepted, he had to put his character in the back ranks. So the Canite assassin ends up killing my unit champion, but that's fine because my lords and heroes in that front rank does plenty of damage to him. Even though my lord had 7 attacks as well as Red Fury, I only managed to do 1 wound with him, which actually ended up being a blessing in disguise because there was 2 models remaining after combat was finished, so my opponent had to run for it instead of me destroying the unit completely and reforming. The Dark Elf unit needed Snake Eyes to pass leadership, which they fail. He runs away, but I end up chasing him down, and something really fortunate happens to me again. I end up completely on the flank of his army with a line of sight to the back corner of his Dark Shard unit. And I take full advantage of this situation by charging my Black Knights in my turn 2. My Spirit Host number 1 charges his Harpies. Every other unit of zombies just moves up slowly because I can't march. In my magic phase, with my lord, I tried to cast a Wind of Death, which would have been awesome because it would have gone through pretty much all of his units if I had a decent enough roll on the artillery dice. I rolled really well to get the spell off, but my opponent had a Dispel Scroll. If he didn't have that, the Wind of Death would have been doing, I think, d6 plus 3 hits per rank, and most of those units are in ranks of 5 or more, so it would have been a huge magical phase. In hand-to-hand combat, my Spirit Host does a couple of wounds to him. He passes his leadership and doesn't flee off the board, so they're well held there. I don't really mind that. I should be able to grind him down over a couple of turns. At the main battle, the Lord's unit of Black Knights do a fair bit of damage to his Dark Shards. Again, he needs double 1s to be able to hold, which he fails. Now something happens here which is really interesting, and I do need help from you guys to clarify whether we played the scenario correctly or not. His Dark Shard unit rolls, I think maybe 7 or 8 inches for his flee. He flees through the tower, which had to do dangerous terrain check on, which he passes, but because there was not enough room for his unit to come out the other side, I think his unit ends up going through every single unit of his army there, forcing them all to do a panic test because a friendly unit that's fleeing ran through them. I'm pretty sure this is the way the rule is supposed to be done, but not 100%, so if you can clarify the rule for me, please comment in the video at the bottom. So he does all of his leadership tests, and what do you know, his Lord's unit ends up failing the leadership and runs as well. So both of his units of Dark Shards end up running to the other side of the map, which is bad, but I think might have saved them from my Black Knight unit. Now again, I do need another rules clarification here. Do you ever test for panic twice in a turn? I'm not sure if you do. So the way we played it was that any unit that already took a leadership test from the first Dark Shard unit fleeing through them didn't have to test again for the second Dark Shard unit. So in Dark Elf turn 3, both of the units that are fleeing now rally and reform to face the where the action's happening. My opponent moves his War Hydra up, ready to charge against my zombie unit, as well as moving his Blackguard unit around the tower there to face my Black Knights. Not much happens in the magic phase, and in the shooting phase I think he just fires at my zombies again. He may have had a shot at my Black Knight unit with one of the bolt throwers, but couldn't do any damage. In the close combat phase, the Spirit Host there just killed another couple of Harpies. Vampire Counts turn 3, I couldn't charge my Black Knights around that tower, which was quite annoying, so I had to maneuver around them. My zombie unit, however, does get a charge off on his Hydra, which I was quite happy with. During my magic phase, I am hoping for a really high roll on Winds of Magic, because as you can see here, all 3 of my casters are within range of a wizard tower, so I've got every single spell at my disposal now. and I end up rolling double ones, which is kind of funny. Using the dice, I do get a Van Hels's Dance Macabre off on my Lord's unit, and I shuffle them forward a little bit, but the most important thing is they're going to have rerolls to hit until my following magic phase. Now for some fun, the War Hydra versus my zombies. I have never seen a War Hydra in action before, so I'm expecting good things, and my opponent actually, I think he missed 4 or 5 out of his attacks, which was just really terrible for him. He does some damage with a Thunder Stomp, but he only kills 5 zombies, which is really bad. The odds are he should have probably done 7 or 8, and because he only did 5 wounds, but I got the charge, 3 ranks and a standard, I actually end up winning by the musician. So he fails his leadership test and ends up running away, which is just unbelievable, as if a War Hydra would ever run away from zombies. And in the remaining combat, my Spirit Host ends up killing the rest of the Harpies. So come to Dark Elf turn 4, my opponent again surprises me by charging my Black Knight unit with his Black Guard. And then the War Hydra rallies, so it's facing my zombie unit again. During his magic phase, he gets off a really good spell. I can't remember what it's called, but it basically forces one of my units to do a weapon skill test, and he casts this at my zombie unit, and zombies have a weapon skill of 1, so I pretty much fail all of my tests, and for every test that I fail, I think he gets a strength 4 hit, and he rolls really well on this, and I end up losing all but 1 model in zombie unit number 3, so that was a really good spell. During the shooting phase, again, he has no options with his Reaper bolt throwers but to shoot at my zombies because my Black Knights are now engaged in combat. He aims them all at my unit with a Necromancer in there but doesn't do a lot of damage. So during the close combat phase, my Lord goes absolutely psycho on his unit. I end up doing 6 wounds with the 7 attacks that he has, and then because with Red Fury, for every wound that's unsaved, I get to do another attack. With the 6 additional attacks I got, I do another 5 wounds, I think. So I end up doing a total of 11 wounds with my general alone, and because the rest of the unit has rerolls to hit as well because of the Van Hels I put on them last turn, they clean up the rest of the unit. So I've killed every single model in that unit. I've just put on the graphic there. The skulls are what my units killed, and the little explosions are what my lords killed. So yeah, very impressed with my Blender Vampire here. In my turn 4, I end up charging the Black Knight unit into his first set of repeater bolt throwers. All my other unit move up slightly, and during my magic phase I end up raising a new unit of zombies directly behind his lines. In the only hand-to-hand combat for this round, my knights easily take care of the war machines, and I don't overrun because I want to charge the repeater bolt thrower directly next to the first one. In Dark Elf turn 5, he shifts his War Hydra to face my Black Knight unit, and then the Dark Shards move up to face my zombie unit number 1. In my opponent's magic phase, he again got that really good spell off that makes me do a weapon skill check. Now, that zombie unit has been steadily increasing in size over the previous few turns because I've been chucking an odd dice now and then on an invocation at the end of every magic turn, so I think they're about 40 or 50 strong right now, but with that one spell my opponent killed fully 3/4 of them, so that spell is just great against zombies. And during the shooting phase, my opponent finally gets to fire at me with his Reaper bolt throwers at my knights. With the 2 remaining bolt throwers, he ends up killing 5 knights. So they're really good. Even against 2+ armor saves, they seem to do a fair bit of damage. But my opponent all game hasn't been able to fire at me. During Vampire Count's turn 5, I get 2 charges off, one with my Black Knights against one of the bolt throwers and the other with the zombie unit against the other bolt thrower. I end up getting an evocation off with both my Vampire Lord as well as the Necromancer in the zombie unit number 1, which raises a fair few models back. I think my Black Knights units are back to full, and zombie unit number 1 and zombie unit number 3, who was down to 1 model, get a fair few models back. In the close combat phase, my Knight's unit easily kills the Reaper Bolt Thrower, and then I reform them to face the War Hydra. Dark Elf turn 6, my opponent charges the War Hydra directly into my Lord's unit, and then refaces the Dark Shard unit number 2 against my zombie unit. During the magic phase, he gets that spell off again on zombie unit number 1. So after the last round, I had about 25 or so zombies, I think, in that unit. And then with this one spell, he reduced them to about 4 zombies and 1 wizard left. So yeah, again, very good spell. Not much happened in the shooting phase. I think he might have killed a couple of zombies with the Dark Shard unit number 2, but not much to speak of. During the close combat phase, because my Lord had always strike first, I ended up killing his Hydra without him ever getting an attack off. So yeah, that really annoyed my opponent because it is a brand new War Hydra that he just bought, and in the first time he's used it, it didn't really live up to his expectations. In the last turn of the game, I charged my Lord's unit into his Lord's unit, and then I charged my zombie unit into his other Dark Shard unit. And needless to say, a full unit of Black Knights with 3 characters versus a Sorcerer inside 1 Dark Shard unit, which meant that the close combat was going to be very, very one-sided, and I end up killing every single model in his unit. His Dark Shard unit number 2 does survive the charge against my zombie unit. So here we have the end of the match, and there's not a whole lot of elves remaining on the board, and the victory points reflect that. So my opponent ended up scoring 205 points off me. I scored about 1600 points off him. Now for some thoughts on the game after it's all said and done. I think my opponent could have done much better with his deployment. I personally don't understand why he spaced out all of his hard-hitting units. So you can see there that the War Hydra is on the extreme left flank as I'm looking at it. His Blackguards are in the middle somewhere. His Witch Elves are in the middle but 2 units away from his Blackguard. And then his Harpies are right off to one side. So I don't understand why he would want to fill them so spaced apart. Personally, if I had 2 or 3 hard-hitting units, I'd probably keep them slightly closer together so that they can work in conjunction with each other, but spreading them so far apart meant that my Lord's unit was able to take 1 on at a time, and none of those units are a match for my Lord's unit 1 at a time. But if he had charged me with perhaps his War Hydra as well as the Blackguard at the same time, or the Witch Elves and Blackguard, I reckon he could have done much better against me there. Now the other thing is, I would have personally fielded the War Hydra instead of off on the flank, so far away from everything. I would have put them right next to Witch Elves and Harpies, so that, yeah, I think the result would have been much more different had the initial deployment been a bit better thought out. However, I think the biggest contributor to his loss is the way he chose to charge. Now, as I said during the game, I was surprised that he charged me twice. This is round 2, or Dark Elf turn 2. His Witch Elves are probably 6 inches away from my Black Knight's unit there, and he charged them in there. I think this was a huge mistake. If you're going to invest so much of your points in repeater bolt throwers, in 2 Dark Shard units armed with crossbows or whatever the hell they're armed with, why would you want to rush the close combat? The moment he charged his Witch Elves in, he doesn't get a shoot at me. I personally would have just held with the Witch Elves right where he is, and then shot at me with all 3 repeater bolt throwers. That would have done a ton of damage against the Black Knights, and then in the following turn, which is a vampire count turn, I would have declared a charge against his Witch Elves, and then he should flee with his Witch Elves, most likely causing a failed charge, and then he gets to fire at me again with all 3 repeater bolt throwers as well as the Dark Shard unit. So he's basically missed out 2 chances of shooting at me throughout those couple of turns alone. And then in turn 4, the same thing happens. He charges me with the Blackguard unit, which, you know, fair enough if he thinks highly of his infantry, but I think he should have had a good clue as to what my Vampire Lord was capable of, and kept his blackguards well clear, and did exactly the same thing as I would have advised in the previous slide, which is shoot at me with a repeated bolt thrower, declare flee when I try to charge his blackguards, and shoot at me with a repeated bolt thrower again. He probably would have wiped out 3/4 of my Black Knight unit doing that, but instead he chose to charge me with his infantry, and then his repeated bolt throwers are stuck there shooting at zombies. Next up, his Dark Elf magic was really effective against my zombies. They were killing, 3/4 of a unit in one spell. However, having said that, I still think a level 4 wizard is better than 2 level 2s, so I think with the points expenditure he had with the sorcerers, I personally would have gone for a single lord caster that's level 3 or level 4, and then maybe a hero or a lord that's capable of hand-to-hand combat on foot to help his other units, because once my vampires got in there, there was nothing to stop them from annihilating anything in hand-to-hand combat. So a Dark Elf character that's got good defense or really good offense probably would have stopped that from happening. Just a little bit of a thought on my army. I was very impressed with the way the Blender Lord worked against Elves. Because they're only toughness 3 and his strength 5, there was no need to give him a strength weapon, so I opted for the maximum number of attacks with the Sword of Strife. 7 attacks with 2s to wound. He's got always strike first. The vampire next to him makes everything in base contact always strike last, so that negated a lot of the elves always strike first, so my lord had rerolls to hits and then 2s to wound, so yeah. And on top of that, every wound gives me an extra attack as well, so that worked out really well in my favor. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I had making it, as well as playing the game. If you liked the video, please press the like button, or better yet, subscribe to my channel. I will be trying to upload a battle report every week or so. Again, if you have any comments or recommendations about how I should edit my videos or play my games in terms of strategy, or maybe any rules that I've messed up, feel free to comment below. I like to have feedback for all of my videos. And until next time, I'm Sean from Hammersim. Thank you for watching.